In the last video, I ended off at complacency and how it's a bad thing, and how it's kind of like 1984, the book and whatnot, or even the movie, although the book is more realistic to that scenario. Um, so you have all this different but complacent people, and I don't even know if complacent would be the right word at this point. Different but oppressive would be the more proper term, but under our society, if you look through our lens, our habitus, it's seen as different but complacent because it is accepted as a good thing, when that's not actually exactly true, or it isn't, or it shouldn't be true. Um, at least to people who have different beliefs on habitus and whatnot. That's an ancient Greek thing, I do believe, on how society operates, the lens that we operate under. Although I might be wrong, so people can correct me if they rather feel like it. Um, and so it just different but oppressive, or different but complacent. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's kind of like having an inertial frame versus a non-inertial reference frame. But depending on your perspective or depending on your reference frame, one answer or the other could be right, and one could be more wrong, one could be more right. It's kind of dependent on that whole thing. So it kind of really just depends. Is that understandable? So you'll have all this, right? And there we go. And it just doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Um, or maybe to a lot of people who could possibly even see this. And this is not gonna really get me any friends here, but I've kind of given up on that whole idea of being friendly or whatnot. I really have no reason to, when this is our kind of society. Oppressive, different but oppressed, or different but oppressive, because everyone everyone has become a little oppressive in some manner. Even the most unbiased person, even I am oppressive to a certain degree. However, I do believe there is change that could be made so it isn't really oppressive. Um, but we could all be different, but the same. I think that's a lot of a healthier understanding. And I know that for it isn't exactly true. But it's to me, it's a lot healthier than the society's current viewpoints, if that necessarily makes sense. Because there's women and there's men, and they're human, right? So, we're the same, but not quite actually. We all work a little bit different biologically. That's just kind of how we work. It's kind of how the world kind of gave us that existence. Um, but we're all human at the end of the day. I'm sorry for that, sir. I was trying to think of a word to say here. We're all different. We all function a little bit differently biologically, but under the hood, we're well, not under the hood, over the hood, we're the exact same. A muscle car, a sports car, one's muscle and one's sports. But at the end of the day, they're still both cars. They still go down the road just fine. One just does it in a different does it with a different ability of it. So you have a sports car. They're meant for going fast. And muscle cars are meant for like well, also meant for going fast, but they're, more torque in it than sports cars. Sports cars are basically just lighter build frames. I do believe. I might be wrong. Okay. Oh. Okay. Let's slowly run away from that. You might want to run away from that too, little sheep. And so, we can, I know that isn't the best analogy considering my lack of knowledge of cars, but you can understand the point. We're all cars, but we're not all muscle cars or sports cars. Some of us are muscle cars, some of us are sports cars, some of us are luxury cars, some of us are off-roading cars. And some of us are just vehicles. Some of us are, cars, some of us are, trucks, some of us are trains. At the end of the day, though, we still go places, we still do things, we still have jobs, we still have tasks, such as a car. The thing is that we're different because as humans, we have been given the ability to think by quantum physics and a lot of other things, which we still do not have a current fully developed understanding of. And, and there's always going to be that part of us of everyone where we're like, you're not the same as me. I'm a little bit better than you. I'm a little bit worse than you. But was that a ravine I just passed over? Nope, it's just okay. Okay. So at the end of the day, we're all basically the uh, we're all basically the same. Am I wrong? Or am I wrong or am I right? It's kind of, as I said, you have your habitus or something like that, or whatever. We all think a little differently. We all see a little differently. Some of us see worse, some of us see better. Some of us are optimistic, some of us are nihilist, some of us are pessimists. 100 different ways to view the world. But the thing is that we all, just due to the way our society works, we all have different lenses, but we all see, or those of us who are complacent or oppressive, a force that we all have this idea that we must match, that we must be this idyllic lens that we must follow, that we must uphold to, and that isn't necessarily the appropriate way to do it. The thing is that like you should be different, but you shouldn't have to be different. You can be different, but it's completely up to you as a person, as an individual. How do you want to be? How do you want to be seen, even? And I think that, when you have the current way that things are going, yeah, that's not. I think eventually there will be change towards that more realist perspective once everything kind of settles down, because we have all this internet. And back to the original point, we have this internet, but we're using this as like a dangerous tool for oppressiveness, because we've basically put ourselves in this like glass box that we don't know how it fully works. We understand how it's connected, but we don't know where all the connections are. So we have like this really, really beautiful conceptual understanding of it, and some of us have this more mathematical or algebraical full understanding of it on some parts. But all of us together were required to make the system work, but we're making it work in a way that isn't exactly healthy. From what I would understand, would be the understanding of it all. But what would I know? I'm just oh no, there goes my bow. No, bow, get back here. So just all this different understanding, this different way of the world, and people are just treating it as this completely di dissolute, diluted, whatever word works for you. I don't know. I don't really care right now. I'm just all trying to just make a point. I think I think it's a system that needs to be fixed, just in general. Now, back to my original point, about the academic system. It's an oppressive system built on the days where everybody was the same with no difference. They were the same but complacent. And over time, we've went to um different but the same. Kind of, we were kind of there. We were so close. Um, but then we flipped, and now we're at this different but complacent, or different but oppressive or oppressed kind of a theme here with society, at least from my perspective. And of course, I have a different habitus or different completed habitus than others might see, that others might see or might not see, or might not understand fully. So it's kind of just one of those things where you have to get a halfway understanding of it all. Um, I have to see there halfway in the middle, halfway in between, for everybody, for the perspective to be kind of seen, or more fully understood. Um, oh, or understood. Sorry, understand is not a word. I'm sorry about that. My English skills have compromised themselves again. But the point still remains the same. We should all be different but the same, or we can all be different but the same would be a more appropriate thing, because should would imply that you have to follow this idyllic view, and that's not true. There should be no idyllic view. Understand that kind of ruins the whole idea of a utopia or a dystopia, but the thing is, there will never be a world where everyone can have what they want perfectly, and we just need to realize that that's okay. We have to figure out our place in the world, and some of us will be higher up, some of us will be lower down. I'm not saying that everyone should be dying because they have no money. I don't think that's great. especially since I myself am a person who has benefited a lot from the medical society that we live in, or medical technology that we have in this society. Um, but it feels it needs change in a good way. And that's kind of hard to understand for some, because everybody's gone used to this different but complacent, oppressed society. Remember to stay hydrated, folks. Um, so the academic system needs to change because it's more of a you should or you have to know this. This you're kind of different, but the schools are just saying you're different. You're gonna have a different jobs that not gonna match. So we have to teach you all these resources. That shouldn't be true because that's kind of the whole different but oppressive theme. Well, you're not gonna be doing what I'm gonna be doing most likely. So everyone's grouped a little bit, but we're all forced. We're all oppressed. We're all complacent to this idea that we must learn everything, which isn't healthy because when you're dealing with the academic system, you should only have the people who really want to learn that stuff focusing on that stuff, and that's gonna make a lot of people really, really, really unhappy in the long run. Um, but I mean, that's kind of what happens when you have a war. Um, you know, Everyone's gonna be really mad for a really long time, but the idea is that through this battle, this war, even if it's useless or useful, everyone learns a story, and I know that in the end, it's gonna be the victor who writes history. That's how it's always been. The U.S. and the UK, all the allied people were viewed as good guys, but we still bombed and killed many people in Denmark and whatnot. We still killed lots of people because we viewed fascist people as bad. Some people were kind of forced into that system, and they don't know any better, so that's the only way to view it. And that's still true in society in some places. Or not even some places, just everyone has that kind of view somewhere in their brain, even the brightest, even the best, worst, whatever. There's still some of that in there somewhere where, we don't know any better, so we continue working with the status quo that we've gotten used to. And what that gives rise to is, well, the systems will change slightly. The gears will get bigger, the gears will get smaller, the gears will move around somewhere, the amount of torque they can apply gets bigger in some areas, but the output is still, in general, just the exact same, especially with the academic system, because you'll have all these schools and whatnot, and they operate under all these different mechanisms in different places. Yeah, but the thing is still, you must learn all these materials to get into college. And that's not really great because it basically forces you to learn information that you won't need, that your brain has to like actively remember, that you won't actually really need. I understand that for some places that's actually a really good thing because you weed out all the people who are not serious about what they're going to be doing. But in general, it's not really the greatest way to perceive things, if that makes sense to people. So what you want to end up here with is a system where we're all different but the same. We aren't fall forced to learn the exact same thing. Everything's kind of a little bit different in the end, but in the end, as I will say again, we're all going to be the same. We're always going to have a place in the world that works for everyone. That everyone will eventually, in the end, maybe be happy with. Um, we're all never actually gonna be fully the same. That much I know for a fact. And that's always how it's gonna be. It's not always gonna work out for everyone. That's that whole, oh, everyone gets what they deserve. Everyone gets the good, and the bad people get messed with, and the good people get what they deserve. That's kind of like this fetishized reality. And there are stories that have happy endings. I'm not gonna say that there isn't, because that isn't exactly true. If that was true, then billionaires wouldn't really be billionaires. I think everyone should fight against being precisely the exact same as someone else. Otherwise, you're gonna see a death in innovation, but I think we need to be a lot more careful. Because so far, we're just super careless about everything. We're like, oh, okay, well, I have to pass this class to get farther in life. Well, might as well cheat. That's such a careless point of view, and it's not really healthy in a society where different should be celebrated, but we're all still the same. As now we've been forced into this oppressive but different society, as I've said like 10 billion times. And it doesn't help anyone. It really doesn't. Um, but it just academic system needs to change. All the things need to change. They need to be realized. If that's understandable, if that's, I thought I saw the ground start doing the weird thing. So, but everything kind of needs to. I understand that everything needs to adapt, and everything adapts in its own different weird little way. But the way things are currently, it's not going to work out in the long run if that's under understandable. Um, because it's been seen in the books, it's been seen in the manifestos of terrorists of how horribly this is going to go if it continues going. I'm not saying that you should listen to these manifestos by terrorists like they're a bible of some sort. I think that we all need to like look at something and understand the vast concepts in them, get a generalization, not generalization, but like memorize each parts kind of, and get an idea. I'm not saying that they have. Oh, great, now my boat's just broken. Whatever. I'm not saying that you have to do it the way that everyone said to do it. I don't say you should take an entire manifesto or thing as what it should be like. That's how the world works. Skepticism is a great thing, and it gets us really far because you understand that oh, maybe that AI could do something bad. Okay, now that we know that it could do bad, how do we make it so it can't do bad, or it's less likely to do bad? So it's like vaccines. Vaccines, they aren't they aren't foolproof. They're not like they're going to prevent you from getting it 100%, but it makes you much less likely to catch it and have the effects of it. So when people get COVID after COVID vaccine, people are like, "Oh yeah, COVID vaccine doesn't work." Okay, listen here. It's basically like the flu. The flu was really dangerous. Like it tore apart the world for 3 years back in like the 1918, back in early days, in the early 20th century. And you get all these little. Let's go over here. Get all these little quirks and whatnot of that kind of idea, and everything kind of like changes around it. If that makes sense. So uh, everything changes around it, but it shouldn't necessarily like cause you to view things with a bad thing. You should take some skepticism, but you should understand what they're doing right to, and then learn what they're doing wrong, and try and fix as many wrongs as you can without removing all the rights. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be some wrongs, there's always going to be some rights, some are going to be equally good, equally bad, some of them are going to have different views on them, are differently viewed. Um, and some people are just not going to get it. I don't expect everyone to get it. I'm not saying, oh yeah, we should get rid of all anti-vaxxers. Uh, there's always going to be those people. It's kind of just how it is. But the internet is such a beautiful thing, so we can share things instantaneously. But the worst part of it is like that we can share bad things just as instantaneously, if not easier, because bad things don't need to be big. Good things really need to be big to stay together, but bad things can be really small and still have wide change. We saw in the American society, great thing, but we had a couple of terrorists by Al Qaeda in 2001 and still tore through the like society. We're like, oh no, you did not. But thing is that you're not gonna be foolproof from that ever. You're never gonna ever. But you know what we did? We made it better, and although it made life frustrating in general, because now we have TSA, because the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, who made the future, industrial future and its, no, the industrial revolution and its future. um, which I'm still trying to read through just to get some concepts of, some understandings from it. Um, oh, oh, it's gone, whatever. Um, and just to get a general understanding, some good points, some bad points. And I think that he makes a good point how the Industrial Revolution has brought a lots of good and has benefited people who live in wealthier countries, which we have seen, but it's destabilized smaller countries, which we have also seen. Seen Iraq and Iran just do terrible things, um, because of stuff, but it still can help them. I think that's where we got it wrong, and I don't endorse him going through and blowing up airplanes or airports or universities like the University of Michigan. I'm I'm trying to say that there are good ideas in there. Some are hidden in there, and you need to dig those out of the bad sections. It's like getting the brown part of a out of a banana. You don't want to eat that part, but you still want the good parts of it. And I think there's still great stuff to be understood by what he wrote, but I'm not saying that you should follow it fully, because you can see where that landed him quite clearly. That one's obvious. Hold on, let me get some water to drink. Alright, now let's get a pickaxe. Pickaxe, not pickaxe, axe. Oh, I'm gonna craft this like a complete psychopath. Alright, anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, Industrial Society and Its Future by Ted Kaczynski. There's some good ideas in there. Like, it's true, yes. Through the Industrial Revolution, the richer countries have gotten richer and have gotten stabilities and the benefits, but the smaller countries have gotten all the bad things, and I understand having some part of that lens. That's completely understandable. Nobody's going to be fully understanding and whatnot. That's kind of just society. That's kind of how it is. Um, but still, I think there could be some changing in his understanding of of society and what it's doing. I think that some of it is bad. Yes, that one is true. That's without a doubt. But these countries like Syria, they've also benefited from the internet because they had the Arabian Spring or something like that. I understand that there's been death and conflicts from all that, and it might be better to think, well, if they didn't have that conflict, they would have been under an oppressive system, but at least they wouldn't be in this state. Trust me, you look at society now, and we're in this different but complacent or oppressed society, and everybody's just kind of just agreed to it. But you have these few groups that are going to be the forefronts of society, I think, in the future, who aren't exactly expressing a new idea, but they're expressing an older but revised idea in a more agreeable fashion. And if they win that fight, then society will benefit from the spoils of what they have fought for. And there will be the groups of those who were extremists that will undoubtedly, like the villains in most fairy tales, suffer. That's kind of just how it is. That's the world, that's how it works, it's fine. We have to learn to accept some things, and there will always be some losses in anything, obviously, but it's for the greater good. And understand that with that perspective, you could say, well, as long as it was in his perspective, as millions could die and it'd still be good for humankind as long as it saved 3 billion. And I understand that that might be a controversial viewpoint. Yes, I am fully aware. But if there's the chance that you're one of those 1 billion people who might die, rather rather than and then there'll be the 2 billion who survive, will be like your family members and whatnot. I think you have to understand that there is losses that will inevitably happen, obviously. Um, just throughout all of it, but there are indeed acceptable losses, or not acceptable, but necessary losses. It's sad when people that you know or that you love die. Um, but people must understand that you have to pave a path for the future. And as long as you're paving the path for a brighter and better future, you shouldn't have to worry about the past or what could possibly happen in the present, because what you fight for, if you fight for it hard enough and a lot of other people see it, eventually you'll have all these other people that go around and support it. Jesus died on a cross, but he spread it so far, and he made his point so loud and clear that his point was fought for. And then you have religion. I'm not saying religion's a good thing or a bad thing. There have been the holy wars, which have demonstrated, how you know how bad things can be sometimes. That much is true, but there's still the good of it. You still get the good people who aggregate together into certain areas of the world who do their own little thing, and benefit the world through just charities and whatnot. And I think that's a great thing, even if I don't completely agree with how it is fully done. That much will always be true. There will always be, people like me who aren't fully, okay, what the hell happened here? Who aren't fully benefited from all this. They don't really care. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't really affect them. But they can still gain good through through it all. And, um, as long as we're all gaining something good out of this in the end, even if it might be us who will suffer first, I think there are points that are worth fighting for, and that we must commit to change and looking at the bad people and looking at their good points, and then looking at the good people and looking at their bad points, because at that point in time you would have the biggest point of change, because now you're looking at all the bad people who have the good points, and then that's a faster middle ground, because you'll have the good people who have the bad points, that you must fight over, and you have the bad people and their good points. And through that, you can kind of weave this little net, this little starting area of what you must do, what must be done, um, to commit to a better change in society. And that might not be the best way to do it, but it's a good way to maybe start to do it. And I think that's what really matters the most in that kind of a situation, is that you understand what must be done and what must happen. Um, and then figure out what needs to be done, where do things need to be changed, where do we see the point that needs to be changed. And I think through that you will eventually reach your good points, and you will see change that you will benefit from overall, or that society will benefit from overall. A happier society, there will always be sad people, or angry people, or mad, well, yeah, that's, I guess, part of angry, or happy people. And there will always be pessimists, but through our difference, we are all the same. Education system could be changed. Technology could be changed. Limits on things could be happened, or could be made that could probably benefit us all. But sorry, I just had to do something real quick. And then in general, in the end, you will reap, or somebody will reap the spoils that you have fought for. And I think the best way to do it is that if you fight hard enough, you won't. If you don't fight for it too hard, but you fight for it, what you fought for, what you've earned, the spoils, might go to a bad person. But if you fight for it really hard, then your spoils will most probably go to the good. And if it goes to the bad, and when you fought for it really hard, the good will realize, wait, hold on, this person stole what they fought for, and they're twisting and manipulating it, and they will fight even harder than you did. If you thought you fought the hardest that anyone could possibly fight for, in that. So, it's really a dependent kind of a deal, it really kind of really just actually does depend. But if you fight for it, you will eventually see it. It will eventually, well, not maybe you won't see it, but the people that need to see it will eventually see it, especially if you fight hard enough for it. And I'm not saying it's certain, but it's a lot higher of a chance than if you didn't fight very hard for it or you didn't fight for it at all. And I think there could be ways to see it through that kind of a lens. I believe this is where I'm going to stop for today. I thank you for hearing me rant for the past 2 episodes, and I wish you have a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful day.